Hello, I'm Mr. Steinauer, and this is 3rd and 4th grade science. Today, we'll be finishing up our lessons about simple machines by applying what we know about them to explore and discover simple machines all around us in our own lives. All you'll need for today's lesson is a piece of notebook paper or something to write on, and of course something to write with. You're going to use this to brainstorm some ideas of where you might find simple machines. At the end of today's lesson, you're going to find an example of each simple machine. But don't worry, we're going to review them today together, and then I'm going to show you how I found each simple machine at my own home. Well, not at my own home, at school here at Whittier Elementary. So here I am at my desk. My desk has all kinds of things in it, just like your bedroom might or your workspace, wherever you happen to be right now might. So I'm just gonna open this up. A pen. I've got a pen here. There's a reason that as I push in, this also comes out, and then I can push in again and it'll retract or come back inside of the pen. And let's open the pen up to find out why that is. So I open my pen up and I see inside here is a spring. This spring uses a rotational motion to allow things to go forward or backward. What kind of simple machine uses a rotational motion to allow things to go forward or backward? That's a screw. This spring here is a screw. It allows me to push the button at the end of my pen and the ink will come out or the ink will go back in. And the tip of my pen is actually a wedge. I could use it to split things. I could push down and it will split things between them. If I open up the tip of my pen, I'll find another screw. So I found two screws which use a rotational force to push in or pull out. Then I also found that the tip of my pen is a wedge. I can use that to split things. Okay, let me get away from my desk for a little bit. I probably could have found all 6 simple machines inside my desk, but I want to go to a variety of places so that we can get some ideas in our head, places you might go to find an example of each simple machine. So this machine right behind me is called a compound machine. Compound machines use more than one simple machine to make something happen. I'm going to talk about 3 simple machines in one machine here, in my bicycle. So the first simple machine that I'm going to describe is a lever. As you're biking and cycling, maybe your brakes look a little different than mine, but as you pull, for an example, as I pull down on my front brake, then the brakes actually squeeze my bike. So I can let my bike wheels spin, but then as I squeeze down on my brakes, the brakes squeeze on the bike. That's a lever. As I pull down, the modified lever squeezes on my wheels, and so that actually stops my bike from going. That stops the wheels from turning. Speaking of wheels, a wheel and axle. This is a wheel and axle. So we've talked about wheels and axles before. Normally when we see a wheel and axle, there is a pair of wheels. But in this case, the wheel is modified so that the axle is in the middle of the wheel mechanism. So we turn the wheel to spin the axle, which allows the wheel to freely rotate. If we were just trying to turn the axle, as I'm trying to do here, notice that it takes a lot of work. You can kind of hear in my voice and see me struggling to do it. It takes a lot of work without turning much. But a wheel allows us to turn the axle very easily. Wheel, axle, together, wheel and axle. A wheel and axle uses a greater rotational force of a wheel to rotate the axle inside. So we've seen a lever, we've seen a wheel and axle. If I were to switch the gears of my bike, those of you with bikes with gears, mine probably look a little different than yours. As I pull down, the gears will shift. This is a gear. A gear, you can tell by its circular nature, is very similar to a wheel. In fact, a gear is a wheel, just a wheel with teeth. Then we've got this chain that connects to some other wheels back here in the back. There are multiple wheels because my bike can change between the wheels to be at different gears. This is a pulley system. As I rotate the front wheel by turning the pedals, I'm able to rotate the back wheel as well. The chain keeps moving, and that rotation of the back wheel is what allows me to move the back tires. In fact, when you pedal, you're powering the back of your bike and relying on the front wheel and axle to turn in response to you pedaling. Whew, I could use a seat. Now, we've talked about our 3 simple machines on my bike here. We saw that the brakes are levers because as I push down, the wheels will get stopped by the brakes squeezing in on them. Remember, a lever responds when I push down, something pulls up, or as I pull up, something pushes down. We also saw a wheel and axle. There are 2 wheels and axles on a bike. In this case, the wheel goes out and then back in to fit the axle in the middle. Remember that a wheel and axle works by turning a wheel to turn that axle. You saw how hard it was for me to just rotate that axle and how little the wheel turned when I rotated it. Even though sometimes we think bigger is harder, it's actually much easier to rotate a wheel and allow that axle to rotate by doing that. The 3rd simple machine we looked at was the pulley in between the front gear, another wheel, and the back gears, another wheel. There's that pulley chain that allows the back wheel to turn by me turning the front wheel with my feet. So there's one more place that I have to show you at Whittier Elementary. Then we'll come together, do a little bit of brainstorming, and we'll talk through what you're going to do at the end of this activity. For my 6th simple machine, I've come into the stairwell. What simple machine is this? It allows us to go forward or backward and at the same time go down or up. It's an inclined plane. These, of course, are just stairs, which is one kind of inclined plane. All right, let's get back to class. So that concludes our search for all 6 simple machines. To review, a simple machine is any device that changes the amount of a force or the direction of a force. There are 6 simple machines. They are a screw. As a screw rotates, it also pushes in or pulls out. There's a wedge. As a wedge comes down or pushes in, a wedge splits that force, that downward or inward force, to split it in 2 directions. There's also the lever. As I push down on a lever or pull up, the lever responds by going in the opposite direction. There are a lot of modified levers, like on a bicycle. As I squeeze down on my bicycle brake, the brake pads squeeze in to my wheel, but that's still a lever. It's just responding in a slightly different way. 4th, we've got the wheel and the axle. Remember, the axle, even though it's smaller, it takes a lot more force to move. So we rotate a wheel, and that wheel, which is connected to the axle, moves the axle with a lot less force that we have to use on it. We've also got a lot more force on the axle itself when we rotate the wheel than if we rotated the axle and tried to put force on the wheel, as we saw. The 5th simple machine that we talked about today is the pulley. A pulley uses wheels as well as cables or cords or rope, or in our case a bike chain, to move between those 2 wheels, and as we push or pull in one direction, the pulley responds by adding to our force and making it much easier to, say, lift open some window blinds or to pedal a bike down the street. Both of those are examples. The 2 wheels, the gears are 2 wheels on a bike and the chain there, as well as the string we pull down on window blinds to open our window blinds up. Those are both examples of at-home pulleys. The sixth and final simple machine that we discussed today was the inclined plane. And in that case, I just walked over to the stairs here at my school. An inclined plane goes forward and up, or down and forward. It goes in two different directions using one single motion. Now it's your turn. You're going to use your home or your workspace and find all 6 simple machines. Let's brainstorm a little bit before you're out on your own doing this. Now, a very common place where we'll find a lot of simple machines that split things, that might turn things, is in the kitchen or in the bathroom. There's something that we often use that has a rotational force with it. As you pull down, it also rotates, allowing more of this stuff to come out. That might be in the bathroom. You might also look in a place where you've got a lot of toys, or you might find some examples of levers or inclined planes there. Inclined planes also help you move around your home or your school. And finally, a wheel and axle is a pretty common one that we see on the street all the time, that you may have in your garage or outside of your home. Find one example of each of the 6 simple machines: lever, screw, wheel and axle, inclined plane, pulley, and the wedge. Find one example of each of these and share them with a loved one. I encourage you to also share it on social media with a loved one's permission and tag KCPS Homeroom in it so that we can see what kinds of things you observed and noticed were simple machines. As always, it's been my pleasure having you in class today. My name's Mr. Steinauer, and I'll see you next week.